You've probably seen the headlines. The whole world is buzzing about this high-stakes summit in Alaska. It's being framed as a potential breakthrough for peace in Ukraine. But what's really on the table? Well, in this explainer, we're going to decode Russia's endgame using some fantastic analysis from the Institute for the Study of War.
And this is the statement that got everyone's attention. After the summit, this was the big announcement: direct negotiations for a peace agreement. Not just another ceasefire, but a real comprehensive deal. On the surface, that sounds like a massive step forward, right?
But here's the thing. Behind all the optimistic headlines, there are some incredibly complex and, frankly, potentially dangerous demands being made. So that brings us to the crucial question. What is the real price of this supposed peace? Let's break it down.
Okay, so to really understand what's going on, we have to look past the diplomatic niceties and decode what Russia is actually demanding at the negotiating table.
And right off the bat, you can see this huge disconnect. The public signal, the diplomatic message, is that Russia is open to a comprehensive settlement. But the core demand, the thing they say has to happen before talks can even seriously begin, is a full Ukrainian military withdrawal from all of Donetsk. Think about that. It's not a negotiating point, it's the price of admission.
You also have to listen very carefully to the specific language the Kremlin uses. You'll hear them talk a lot about addressing the root causes of the conflict. Now, that sounds pretty reasonable, doesn't it? But according to the ISW, this is basically Kremlin code for their original maximalist war aims. We're talking about things like Ukraine's complete capitulation. So when you hear root causes, don't think compromise. Think of it as them restating their initial goals for the invasion.
So it all boils down to this. When you strip away all the other language, Putin's one clear, consistent, and unwavering demand remains the same. Ukrainian forces have to get out of Donetsk. Period. That's the absolute precondition for everything that comes after. Okay, so if that's the demand, let's play this out. What would a withdrawal like that actually mean on the battlefield? What's the strategic reality here? What's at stake here is so much more than just territory. Military analysts call this area the Fortress Belt. It's Ukraine's main, heavily fortified defensive line in the Donbass. We're talking about a network of positions that Russian forces have been trying and failing to break for years. Giving this up wouldn't just be a concession, it would be a monumental strategic blow. And this is where withdrawal could turn into a catastrophic trap. The ISW lays out a nightmare scenario that could happen without a full ceasefire. Just imagine. Ukrainian forces start pulling back from Donetsk. Russia's so-called ceasefire only covers the south, leaving their forces in the north, around Kharkiv, completely free to attack. They could just hammer the flank and rear of those retreating Ukrainian troops. Those withdrawing columns would become sitting ducks, risking a total rout. It is a terrifying possibility. All right, now let's flip the script and look at this from another angle. Because what the Kremlin is telling its own people, well, that often reveals way more than any statement made to the West. Just look at this quote from Dmitry Medvedev. It's incredibly revealing. He says, "Negotiations are possible, while Russia continues its war." There's no hint of pausing the fighting to talk things over. The message couldn't be clearer. We'll talk, sure, but we're also going to keep attacking. The war does not stop for diplomacy. And if you want to see the real strategy, just look at the instructions that were handed down to Russian state media. They were told to frame this whole summit not as a peace effort, but as a meeting of two superpowers where Putin was restoring Russia's global status. They were explicitly told to stress that no deal was reached and that Putin, not anyone else, is setting the agenda. And the ultimate goal of all this messaging? Prepare the Russian people for a long, drawn-out war, not a quick compromise.
And look, this isn't just talk. The proof is right there on the ground. These tactical maps from the ISW show that Russian offensive operations were still going full throttle during the summit. You can see it here near Pokrovsk in the east and again up by Sumy in the north. The fighting didn't slow down one bit. The diplomatic track has not paused the war at all. So let's pull all these threads together. As this situation develops, what should we really be looking for? How can we see past the hopeful headlines? When you lay it all out, the whole situation is just built on these massive contradictions. You have the public talk of peace, clashing with non-negotiable demands for territory. You have the offer of a limited ceasefire, while attacks continue everywhere else. and you have this external show of diplomacy for the West, contrasted with internal preparations for a long, grinding war.
And this all leads to the core conclusion from the Institute for the Study of Wars analysis. This summit isn't really a genuine path to compromise. Instead, it's become a new venue, a new stage, for Russia to pursue its original maximalist war aims, just through different means.
So as this story keeps unfolding, maybe the key isn't to focus on all the talk about peace. The real question to ask is, what isn't being said? And in any negotiation, it's often the things left unsaid that matter the most.